Hello students, you are again welcome to Test Kupara 9th biology class with our topic being the food production and management. In the first lecture, and this is the second lecture, and in the first lecture we discussed about the introductory idea about what food production means and what management means, how we will produce the food and how we manage those food resources. And in this lecture we will mainly discuss about the crop rotation and some nutrients which are required by plants to grow. And first of all, you all will be aware about that whenever a farmer intends to grow the crop, he first of all what he does, he prepares the farmland, and then he makes it fit for sowing seeds. Then the first step is the seed sowing. First is to prepare the land for the crops, and then the seeds seeds can be sown and in that field. Now the seed quality is the main factor in crop production, because we should use the high quality seeds. Only high quality seeds can yield the high yielding varieties of plants. Farmers generally use ordinary seeds. They use quality seeds. Sometimes they use high quality seeds. Very rarely they should be given the education about this agriculture, and they should be given the new they should be aware about new techniques which can be introduced in the crop fields to yield the high variety of crops, high yielding varieties. If the farmers would use high quality seeds, they can probably get the high yielding varieties of crops, and the crop production will be increased. They will get the large amount of crops, and they will get high yielding. They will get qualitative and quantitative increase. There should be proper irrigation. If somewhere field is maintained for growing crops, it needs proper irrigation. It needs crop protection. This field needs to be cleared from the weeds. This needs to be cleared from the pests that can harm our crops. So clearance of weeds and pests can be done through biofertilizers, weedicides and pesticides. They should not be used on large scale, but for short times. Irrigation should be there. Proper irrigation, good seed quality and crop protection are the main things that are needed primarily by a farmer to grow the crops. And then comes the second term. That is the nutrients. I have discussed somehow what nutrients are. These are the important elements which are needed by a plant to grow. They are present mainly they are present in soil. For example, all these nutrients, I have bifurcated them into two types. I will give you explanation about this. Mainly they are present inside the soil. So soil is called as nutrient pool for the crop production, and only three nutrients of them, carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, come from air and water. Now let me tell you what this bifurcation is. Nutrients are divided into two types on the basis of needs of the plant. How plant needs them, they are classified in two types on that basis. Plants need some of the nutrients in large amounts, and they need some of the nutrients in small amounts. Generally, in science, when we talk of bigger and smaller larger and smaller, we use macro for large and micro for smaller. For example, when we talk about the cells, in the cell we generally use microscopic structures. Cells are microscopic structures. What this microscopic means? Micro means small. So these all these nutrients which are micronutrients are needed by the plant in small amounts, very small amounts. And macronutrients, MACRO, macronutrients means those nutrients which are needed by the plant in large amounts. Now let us see which nutrients are needed in large and which are needed in small amounts. They are in total 16 nutrients in total, and 6 are macronutrients, 7 are micronutrients, and 3 come from air and water. What are macronutrients which are needed by plant in large amounts? It is nitrogen, it is phosphorus, it is potassium, it is calcium, it is magnesium, it is sulfur. And the 3 of them come from air and water: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. As you know that H2O means water, so it has 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of this oxygen. And carbon, you know, CO2 is present in air. Micronutrients here are which are needed in very small amounts is zinc, Zn, manganese, Mn, chlorine, Cl, boron, B, molybdenum, Mo, iron, this is I here, iron, Fe, copper, Cu. These are needed in small concentrations by the plant. Means all these nutrients are needed, whether in small, whether in large concentration, but they are needed by the plant. So sometimes we use manures and fertilizers to compensate these nutrients in the soil, because at a particular in a particular crop field it is not possible that all of these nutrients would be present there. So to compensate that loss and to enrich the soil, we use manures and fertilizers, which I have already discussed what they are. The manures are organic and fertilizers are inorganic, generally chemicals. But crop rotation means to rotate the crop on the same field. For example, in the same season or different seasons. This is a crop field, for example. What we does, we first here grow a crop that was a different crop. For example, it was rice. Then what we does, when we harvest this rice, then we sow in that mustard. And when we harvest mustard, then we sow in that field the wheat. And this is called as crop rotation, sowing same seeds in different seeds in the same field on different times. That's called as crop rotation. Why this crop rotation is needed? For example, I have written here the minerals, for example, needed by rice are sulfur, zinc, magnesium, and manganese. Now when we grow here the mustard, it needs phosphorus, it needs potassium, it needs calcium. That means these are not overused. These nutrients are not overused. If we have grown rice again, then these would be exploited much more. Now when we grow different crop, then these will remain there in the soil, and soil will be enriched. Soil depletion is prevented when we do crop rotation, and soil erosion is prevented when crops are left without when fields are left without crops. There are dangers of soil erosion. Means whenever the rainfall occurs, it may lead to soil erosion. it may wash away the top layer of the soil, and then it increases the soil fertility because there remains the nutrient. Their nutrients are exchanged. They are exchanged. For example, this crop, the third crop which we will grow in this wheat, for example, needs nitrogen, chlorine, potassium and phosphorus. That means all these nutrients are conserved timely, and this is called as crop rotation. This increases the soil fertility for future crop production. This was today